Yo, what's up guys? It's Nofsky with Academia Audio, and today I'm going to show you how you can take your song from this
Take my hand.
to this.
Take my hand. Won't you show me that it's real?
So guys, as you can hear, just wow. Alright guys, so that is the track we'll be working in today, and if you went ahead and missed last session, we just went over the pre-mix, kind of how to set up your track for a professional mix down. We also tackled the drums as well, so if you didn't get to see that, there'll be a link down below in the description where you can go ahead and go watch that. It's important to watch this video series in order, as I'm taking a track literally from start to finish on the mix down process and showing you guys everything. All of my secrets, what the pros do to get that professional sounding mix. This session, we're gonna go ahead and dive into the bass bus, where I'll show you how to get that nice, tight, consistent low end, enough rumble for the jungle, impress all your friends type stuff. So definitely stay tuned for that. And without any further ado, let's dive in. So the bass bus, I always like to start with the sub. And I'm going to show you a really cool layering trick that will get you a nice tight low end. So I'm going to go ahead and drag an EQ onto my sub track, and I like to call this the EQ pocket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one EQ right around that 30 hertz to cut anything below there, and then I'm going to add another EQ, high cut, and I'm going to put this around the 90 hertz. And let's go ahead and give that a listen. So this is before, and this is after. So what that's going to do is it's going to keep your sub nice and consistent. And you might be asking, Josh, well, how do we get that crispy, amazing top end? Well, we're going to do that with another layer. That way, when we add saturation and distortion, it's not going to muddy up the low end. So let's go ahead and do that now. So this is our second layer right here. Let's go ahead and give it a listen. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add an EQ here. And the reason I'm doing that is I already have a sub, and so what I need to do is eliminate the sub frequencies from this. So let's go ahead and do that. We know that we cut the highs starting at 90 hertz. So let's go ahead and do this at 120 just to ensure there's no spillover. And let's give this a listen. Now from this point, it's up to personal opinion. You can add a high cut and cut a little bit, and it all depends kind of what you have going on in the drop. If you have like a synth that's really sitting heavy in like the 800 range or something like that, then you might want to consider cutting this back a little bit. I just have some plucks going on, and so it's not really a big deal, but I can go ahead and just cut it just to ensure there's no spillover. So about there sounds good to me. Let's go ahead and listen to the bass now. This is before, and this is after. So it's just nice and fat. You're able to really isolate that sub frequency and isolate the top end. And now we can go ahead and process both individually, keeping everything intact. Like I said, I kind of want to beef this top bass up a little more. So I'm going to go ahead and add some decapitator. Now when I'm adding this decapitator, I'm not going to put it in front of the EQ. I'm actually going to put it behind, and the reason I'm doing that is anytime you add saturation and distortion, it's going to add harmonic frequencies to your sound. And so if I just cut everything starting at 120 hertz, then by adding distortion after, it might bring back some of those frequencies, and we don't want that for a clean mix. So I'm just going to cycle through a few of the bass presets, and we can go ahead and see what we like. So I really like that one. Let's go ahead and hear before and after without. After. So it just adds another level of warmth to that sound, just making it a little more beefy. Now, another thing that you can go ahead and do is we can go ahead and make that top bass just a little more stereo, just to kind of give it some width and just make it sound nice and big. So I have a micro shift here by Sound Toys, and all it is going to do is it's going to pan the sound a little wider in the mix. This is before, this is after. So that's obviously really extreme. So I'm going to pull this dry wet knob back, and I'm just going to dial this in really quick. All right, so I think we're done for now tweaking these individual tracks. Let's give them a listen. So now we have just a really nice, clean, fat low end to support it. So let's listen to that with the drums. So actually, while I was hearing that, I actually might want to tone the top kick down just a little more. So that is sounding really nice. There is one more thing I want to do with the sub, and I'm just going to add some R bass. And I'm just going to cycle through a few of these presets just to kind of beef up the bass a little more. Let's listen to it all in the mix just really quick.
My head.
So already just from doing the drums and just doing the sub and the top bass, we're already loads of the way further than when we started. So I'm going to keep moving on and processing the rest of these guys, and then we can get back to gain staging and kind of dialing in the volume of each track. So I do have a reverse bass right here. So I'm actually not even going to touch that. That sounds really good right out the gate. Let's move to the verse bass. So already, I already know this needs to be beefed up. And I'm going to go ahead and grab some saturation. Now, we're not going to do any EQ cuts here because there is no conflicting anything. There isn't a sub, it's just one layer. There's no synths going on, so we can kind of just leave it as is. I'm going to go back to the saturate and color, and I'm just going to dial this knob in. And I'm going to turn off the vocals, and let's give this a listen with the drums. I forgot I also have a short version of this kind of whipping into that next section, so I'm going to go ahead and also use the same on there as well. Now let's listen. Just subtle, not a big deal. So I'm going to turn off the synth bus and let's get to gain staging. So when we get into gain staging, something you'll notice is everything's at 0. And when you turn this up, you can only turn it up to 6. And so what I've actually done is there is a utility at -10 dB on every single track. And now I have essentially 16 dBs worth of gain boosting that I can do now. Sure, you could just put a utility on and, add this like that, but I found by using a -10 dB on everything, when you're finished mixing and go into the mastering phase, you have a lot of headroom to be able to master your track, because you want your track coming in at like -8, -6 dB as a whole when you go into the mastering phase. So it's just an effective way that I found to mix and give myself a little more room to play with. Another thing that it does is it also keeps me from clipping from my plugin into the next plugin, which if you are clipping from this to this, what it's going to cause is digital distortion. And we don't want any digital distortion. Analog distortion is great, but digital distortion will muddy up your mix so fast. So go ahead and give it a try. So I'm going to go ahead and boost this just a little bit, 4 dB. Let's get this back and listen. So that's sounding pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and also boost this short reverse. I'm gonna boost it even more. Before we dial in our basses to our kick, I do want to dial them together just really quick. And I just want to make sure that this reverse bass compares with these basses and that I have the right amount of top end I want compared to the sub. So I'm going to go ahead and solo this. I'm going to turn this mid bass all the way to 0, and then I'm going to go ahead and dial it in. Alright, in this case I actually want it a little louder. We'll just do 1 dB, so I'm gonna tweak it right there. And then let's listen to it compared to this reverse bass. That's sitting at a good volume. Now let's go ahead and see collectively what our basses are sitting at compared to our kick. And just kind of a rule of thumb I go about that is we anchored our kick. Now we want our basses to come in around -4, -6 dB quieter than our kick. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit tab, and we're gonna click on the master, and let's go ahead and see where we're sitting at. So -12, let's go check our kick really quick, and we actually have 2 technically, so let's hear that. So -11, so we can go ahead and turn the bass bus down, I'll say -2, and now let's give it a listen all together really quick. And come to think of it, I'm actually going to dial back this just a little more. Let's listen. So that's sitting pretty good for now. As far as processing the bass bus as a whole, there are a few things I like to do. Besides the side chain, I do like to reach for a compressor, and I'm going to use the CLA 76. We can go ahead, and they have a blackie and a bluey setting, and kind of what I've come to realize is the bluey is more warm and organic, and the blackie is more kind of metallic-y. And for this song, I think I'm going to go with the more organic, and we can go ahead and click bass, and we're just going to dial in our threshold right here. Let's give this a listen. And all I'm looking for is around that -3 to -5. Let's hear this guy. Perfect. And again, anytime we add a compressor, we always want to make sure that we're not losing or gaining volume. So let's go ahead and just look at where we're sitting at without the compressor. -14, let's turn on the compressor again. So about there. So let's give it a listen again. Sweet, so that's sounding pretty good. That's really all I like to do is just add some compression to kind of keep the integrity of those peaks that you're gonna have and just kind of glue everything together a little bit. I wouldn't recommend adding a bunch of saturation on the bass bus because you might muddy up your low end, and we don't want to do that. All right guys, so that pretty much wraps up the video for today. I hope you learned something. I hope you got inspired. I hope that track you're working on while you're watching this video is starting to sound really professional. The next video we're going to dive into the synth bus, so definitely subscribe so you don't miss that. Also guys, we do have a free template that does like 60 to 80% of this for you. All the little EQ cuts, a lot of the gain staging, kind of dialing things into the right place is already done for you. It's totally free. It'll take you like 30 seconds to download, so definitely go down below and get a copy of that right now. Also, if you have any questions or comments or want to add anything or just anything at all, definitely put those down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You guys have a blessed day. Peace.
Take my hand.